there are many calls for a ceasefire. But we need to remember that we did have a ceasefire. We had a ceasefire on the 6th of October. We've had a ceasefire after every round of fighting in Gaza over the last 16 years, and every single one has been violated by Hamas and has been abused to rearm and relaunch attacks against Israel. Hamas wants Israel to cease so that it continue to fire. A ceasefire would be seen as a victory for Hamas, literally letting them get away with murder. And it would send a message to terrorist organizations all around the world that if they adopt similar tactics, if they entrench themselves, if they operate from within and behind civilians, then they too can act with impunity. In order to launch this campaign in the International Court, Hamas needed an international partner, and South Africa was only too keen to play that role. But this has nothing to do with concern for human rights. In its entire 84-page document to the court, there is not a single reference to the brutal massacres of October the 7th, not a single reference to the hostages that were taken, which include hostages from Africa, even one with South African citizenship. It's not about Palestinian rights. We have not heard a word from South Africa about the thousands of Palestinians murdered in Syria. We haven't heard a word about Palestinian human rights activists murdered by Hamas in Gaza. Maybe it shouldn't surprise us that South Africa is taking the lead. It has a sad history of being an accomplice to genocide. It hosted Omar al-Bashir, the Sudani leader responsible for the Darfur genocide, when he was indicted and refused to comply with a call from an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. It's had a long-standing close relationship with the Hamas terrorist organization, and October the 8th, before Israel had begun to defend itself against these massacres, its leadership called up Hamas in order to express its solidarity and to blame Israel for the conflict. If Hamas had not perpetrated the atrocities of October the 7th, not a single Palestinian life would have been lost. And if Hamas were to obey the requirements of international law, were to release the hostages and to surrender its arms, then the violence could end tomorrow.